I never expected to find proof of my invisibility in a dusty photo album, but there it was, spread across my parents' coffee table on a quiet Sunday afternoon. My sister Lark's entire life documented in vivid color, her first steps, dance recitals, graduations. My life, apparently, could be summed up in 3 blurry snapshots tucked in the back. My name is Kala, and I've spent 28 years trying to matter to my family. Oh, you found the albums. My mother's voice carried that familiar note of forced cheerfulness as she bustled into the living room. Lark was just asking about these. She wants to recreate some of her baby photos when her little one arrives. Of course she did. My perfect little sister, about to give our parents their first grandchild. I forced myself to keep flipping pages, even as my throat tightened. Funny, I don't remember this vacation to Martha's Vineyard. Oh, that was the summer you were at that urban planning camp you insisted on attending. Mom waved her hand dismissively. Such a waste of time when you could have been networking with the right people here. I bit back the reminder that I'd actually won an award at that camp, one that led to my current position at a prestigious firm. They hadn't attended that ceremony either. The sound of the front door opening saved me from responding. Lark's voice rang out, followed by the deeper tones of my husband Adrian. They'd been spending a lot of time together lately, planning some surprise baby shower thing. At least, that's what they said. There's my gorgeous sister. Lark swept in, her barely visible baby bump somehow the center of attention already. Adrian followed, and something in the way his eyes skipped over me made my stomach clench. We were just looking at old photos, Mom said, already moving to hover over Lark. Remember this dress? You looked like an angel at your first communion. I closed the album quietly, my fingers lingering on its leather cover. I should get going. Big presentation tomorrow. Nobody protested. Nobody even looked up. As I gathered my things, I caught a glimpse of Adrian's hand brushing Lark's lower back, so quick I might have imagined it. But the way she leaned slightly into his touch, that was real. Just like the growing distance in my marriage was real. Just like the photos missing from that album were real. Something shifted inside me then, a quiet click like a lock turning. I'd spent my whole life trying to be seen by people who had perfected the art of looking past me. Maybe it was time they learned what it felt like to be the ones forgotten. That night, I couldn't sleep. The image of Adrian's hand on Lark's back kept playing in my mind like a skipping record. I slipped out of bed, leaving Adrian's sleeping form behind, and made my way to our home office. The glow of my laptop screen illuminated a photo from our wedding day, Adrian and me, looking young and stupidly in love. 5 years felt like a lifetime ago. Back then, I thought I'd finally found someone who saw me, really saw me. A notification pinged. Lark had posted another late-night Instagram story. My finger hovered over it before clicking. There she was at some downtown bar I recognized, raising a glass of what looked suspiciously like alcohol despite her supposed pregnancy. The timestamp read 11:47 p.m. Adrian had told me he was working late at the office. I checked his location on our shared phone plan. Downtown. Same area as the bar. My hands shook as I closed the laptop. The house felt too quiet, too full of shadows and things left unsaid. I grabbed my keys and drove to the one place I knew I could think clearly, my old college campus where I'd first met Adrian. The security guard recognized me from my frequent late-night visits to the urban planning lab. Rough night, Miss Emerson? Just needed some air, Joe. I managed a weak smile. I walked to the bench where Adrian had first asked me out. He'd been so different then, passionate about architecture, full of dreams about building something meaningful together. Now he barely asked about my projects, always too busy with whatever mysterious work kept him out late. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother. Lark's not feeling well. Could you pick up some ginger tea and drop it by her place tomorrow morning? I typed back, sorry, early meeting. Then added, maybe Adrian can help? He's in the area. The typing bubbles appeared and disappeared 3 times before her response came through. Don't be difficult, Kala. Family helps family. Family helps family. Unless that family member is me. I pulled up my photos from earlier that day, zooming in on that old album. In one of my 3 photos, little 5-year-old me stood alone at a piano recital, clutching a participation certificate. Lark had been sick that day, so no one had stayed to watch me perform. The pieces were falling into place like a twisted puzzle. The late nights. The secret meetings. The way Lark touched her barely there bump like it was her ticket to something bigger. My phone buzzed again. Adrian. Working late. Don't wait up. I took a deep breath of the cool night air and made a decision. If they wanted to play happy families behind my back, fine. But this time, I wouldn't be the only one left standing alone with a participation certificate. The doctor's words hung in the air like smoke, choking me. I'm sorry, Mrs. Holt, but your chances of natural conception are extremely low. She kept talking about percentages and options, but I'd stopped listening, fixated instead on the family photo propped on her desk, a perfect arrangement of smiling faces and matching sweaters. My phone buzzed. Another group text from Mom. Exciting news. Lark and Tyler's first ultrasound tomorrow. Everyone's welcome. Everyone. Right. I switched my phone off and left the clinic, walking aimlessly through downtown. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd spent years avoiding pregnancy, carefully planning my career, waiting for the right time. Now here I was, $30,000 into fertility treatments, while Lark accidentally got pregnant after dating Tyler for 3 months? My office was dark when I returned, but I couldn't face going home yet. Adrian would be there, ready with his rehearsed optimism. We'll try again, he'd say, not meeting my eyes. There are other options. A knock on my door made me jump. Working late? It was Tyler, looking uncomfortable in his suit. He worked in the building's accounting firm. Just catching up on some things. I gestured vaguely at my blank computer screen. He shifted his weight. Listen, I need some advice. About Lark. Something in his voice made me look up. What about her? She's been different lately. Secretive. Always on her phone, disappearing for hours. He ran a hand through his hair. And this pregnancy. The timing feels off. My throat tightened. What do you mean? We hadn't. You know, for weeks before she announced it. I was away on business. The pieces clicked together like a terrible puzzle. The late nights. Adrian's distance. Lark's barely visible bump at 3 months along. My phone screen lit up with a text from Adrian. Working late again. Don't wait up. I pulled up Instagram, hands shaking. Lark's latest story showed her at our favorite coffee shop, the one right below Tyler's office. But the reflection in the window behind her showed Adrian's distinctive blue suit jacket. Tyler, I've heard myself say, when exactly were you away on business? All of February. Why? Lark had announced her pregnancy in early March. 3 months ago. I stood up, gathering my things. You should come to the ultrasound tomorrow. In fact, I insist. Really? I thought you'd skip it, given everything. I managed a smile that felt more like baring teeth. Oh no. I wouldn't miss this for the world. Sometimes revenge doesn't need elaborate planning. Sometimes it just needs perfect timing and a front row seat to watch karma unfold. The ultrasound waiting room felt like a stage set for a tragedy. My mother fussed over Lark while Adrian paced near the window, checking his phone every few seconds. Tyler sat next to me, his knee bouncing nervously. Mrs. Emerson? The technician appeared, her smile faltering as our entire group stood. Oh, quite a crowd. We usually only allow 2 people in. The father and I will go, Lark announced, reaching for Adrian's hand instead of Tyler's. The silence that followed was deafening. Tyler's face went blank. What did you just say? My mother's hand flew to her pearls. Lark, darling, you're confused. Tyler is. Actually, I cut in, my voice steady despite my racing heart. I think we'd all like to hear the answer to that. Lark's mask slipped for just a moment, her eyes darting between Adrian and Tyler. I just meant. Adrian's been so supportive, like a brother. Like a brother? I pulled out my phone, pulling up the coffee shop photo. Is that what brothers do? Secret meetings? Late night texts? Adrian stepped forward. Kala, don't. Don't what? Don't tell the truth? That's rich, coming from my infertile husband. The technician backed away. I'll give you folks a moment. Infertile? Tyler's voice cracked. But the baby is about as real as their excuses, I said, Watching Lark's hand drop from her supposedly pregnant belly. Funny how you never seem to get bigger, Lark. Just strategic loose clothing and careful camera angles. My mother's face hardened. Kala, you're just jealous because you can't. Because I can't have children? Or because I can't lie as convincingly as your perfect daughter? Lark's composure finally shattered. You don't understand. Tyler was gone, and Adrian was there, and it just happened. But then nothing happened, and I had to say something to keep everyone happy and happy. Tyler laughed bitterly. You faked a pregnancy to keep people happy? I needed more time. Lark's voice rose hysterically. Time to figure out how to fix everything. Adrian wouldn't look at any of us. I should go. Yes, I said quietly. You should. And take these with you. I dropped a manila envelope in his lap, divorce papers I'd had drawn up the day before. My mother reached for me. Darling, let's not be hasty. I stepped back. No. I'm done being the understanding one. The forgiving one. The invisible one. I turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and Lark? The fertility clinic called yesterday. Turns out I'm not the broken one after all. Funny how karma works. The last thing I heard as I walked away was my mother's wail and Tyler's quiet, devastating, how could you? Sometimes the best revenge is simply stepping aside and letting the truth do its work. The aftermath of the ultrasound revelation spread through our family like wildfire. I spent a week ignoring calls and texts, holed up in a hotel room while Adrian moved his things out of our house. Then my father showed up at my office, looking older than I'd ever seen him. Your mother hasn't slept in days, he said, settling heavily into the chair across from my desk. Lark's disappeared. No one knows where she is. I kept typing, eyes on my screen. Sounds like a Lark problem. She left a note. He pulled out a crumpled paper. Says she's going to make things right. Something in his voice made me look up. What are you telling me? Tyler's pressing charges. Fraud, emotional manipulation. His lawyer's building quite a case. My fingers stilled on the keyboard. And Adrian. He's agreed to testify against her. A laugh bubbled up, bitter and sharp. Of course he has. Anything to save his own skin. Kala, please. My father's voice cracked. She's your sister. Was my sister. I stood up, walking to the window. Where was this concern when she was sleeping with my husband? When she was faking a pregnancy for attention? We failed you both. He moved to stand beside me. Your mother and I. We thought pushing you would make you stronger. We thought favoring Lark would protect her weakness. Instead, we created this mess. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. An image loaded. Lark, sitting on the edge of the bridge where we used to play as kids, her legs dangling over the water. Jesus, my father whispered, looking over my shoulder. That's live. She's streaming it. Another text came through. I'm sorry, Kala. You win. My hands shook as I grabbed my keys. This wasn't what I wanted. Revenge was supposed to feel satisfying, not like this hollow ache in my chest. Where are you going? My father called after me. To stop her from making things worse. I paused at the door. But after this? We're done. All of us. Kala. No. I wanted justice, not this. My voice hardened. But make no mistake, I'm not doing this for her. I'm doing it for me. Because I refuse to let her turn herself into a victim again. Not this time. As I drove toward the bridge, my phone kept buzzing with notifications from Lark's stream. Each one felt like another weight on my chest, another reminder that sometimes winning feels an awful lot like losing. But first, I had to make sure she lived long enough to face the consequences of her actions. After that, I could finally walk away. I found Lark exactly where I expected, perched on the bridge's edge, her social media stream still running. The setting sun painted everything in shades of red, like a warning. Don't come any closer, she called out, her voice carrying over the rush of water below. I mean it, Kala. I stayed by my car, keys still in hand. Jumping won't fix anything. Tyler's lawyers will still press charges. Adrian will still testify. I know. She laughed, hollow and broken. That's the point. Everyone will remember me as the tragic victim of a cruel sister's revenge. The realization hit me like a slap. Even now, she was manipulating the narrative, turning herself into the martyr. Her phone sat propped against the railing, capturing everything. You really think this makes you the victim? My voice cracked. After everything you've done? I did it because I had to. She turned to face me, mascara streaking down her cheeks. You had everything, the career, the perfect husband, the life I wanted. I had to take something back. I had everything? The laugh that escaped me sounded foreign, almost hysterical. You had our parents' love, their support, their acceptance. All I had was Adrian, and you took him too. A crowd was gathering now, drawn by the spectacle. I could hear sirens in the distance. Then we're even, Lark said, standing up on the railing. The wind whipped her hair around her face. You wanted revenge? Congratulations. You won. I took a step forward. Lark. But here's the thing about winning, sister dear. She smiled, that same sweet smile she'd used to charm everyone our whole lives. Sometimes the prize isn't worth the cost. She stepped backward into empty air. I lunged forward, my fingers catching the edge of her sleeve. For one endless moment, we hung there, me half over the railing, her suspended between life and death. In her eyes, I saw something I'd never seen before, fear. Real fear. My shoulder screamed in protest as I held on. Below us, the water churned dark and hungry. Please, she whispered, no longer performing for her audience. I don't want to die. The choice crystallized in that moment. Let go and let karma finish what I'd started. Or pull her back and save the sister who'd never once tried to save me. The sirens were getting closer. My arm felt like it was being torn from its socket. And I realized, with startling clarity, that this moment would define us both, not just in the eyes of others, but in our own souls. I made my choice. 6 months after the bridge incident, I sat across from Adrian in our final divorce mediation. He looked smaller somehow, his confident facade cracked by recent events. There's something you should know, he said, sliding a medical report across the table. I got tested. I'm the one who's infertile. Always have been. The irony hit like a wave, almost making me laugh. So Lark's fake pregnancy would have been impossible anyway. He wouldn't meet my eyes. She didn't know. Neither did I until... Until what? He swallowed hard. Until my new girlfriend actually got pregnant. The doctors confirmed it couldn't be mine. This time I did laugh, the sound echoing off the conference room walls. My lawyer shifted uncomfortably beside me. Karma's a fascinating thing, isn't it? I placed my hand protectively over my own growing belly, watching his eyes track the movement. Life has a way of revealing truth, eventually. His face paled. For months along. Turns out I wasn't the problem either. The door opened, and Ethan walked in, right on cue. He placed a gentle hand on my shoulder, and I felt the simple gold band on his finger brush against my neck. Adrian's jaw tightened. You moved on fast, says the man who slept with my sister. Kala, Ethan's voice was soft but firm. We don't need to do this. But I did. One last time. You know what the difference is between us, Adrian? When I found happiness, I didn't have to steal it from anyone else. My phone buzzed, a text from Lark's rehabilitation center. She was doing better, they said. Learning to live with her choices. Part of me hoped it was true. The papers are ready to sign, my lawyer interrupted, spreading documents across the table. Adrian picked up his pen, then hesitated. I really did love you, Kala. No, I said quietly, you loved the idea of me. The version you could control and shape into what you wanted. Just like my parents did with Lark. I signed my name with steady hands, each stroke a step toward freedom. I hope your new girlfriend's more real with you than my sister was, I added, standing up. And I hope you're more real with her than you were with me. Ethan took my hand as we walked out, leaving Adrian with his regrets and revelations. Outside, spring sunlight warmed my face, and I felt our baby kick, a small reminder that sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's living well. 3 years later, I stood in my backyard, watching Oliver chase butterflies through the garden I'd planted. His laughter carried on the spring breeze, pure and untainted by family legacy or expectation. The invitation to Lark's wedding sat unopened on our kitchen counter. She'd met someone during her recovery, a therapist, ironically. My parents had called twice this week, pleading with me to attend. "Mama, look." Oliver held up a dandelion, his face glowing with discovery. I knelt beside him, showing him how to blow the seeds into the wind. Each tiny parachute carried a wish, a possibility. Ethan appeared in the doorway. "Your sister's here." I hadn't expected that. Lark stood awkwardly by our front gate, looking smaller than I remembered. No designer clothes or perfect makeup, just my sister, raw and real. "He's beautiful," she said, watching Oliver play. "I saw the photos online, but why are you here, Lark?" She pulled something from her bag, the old family photo album. "I found this while cleaning out Mom and Dad's attic. They're downsizing, moving to Florida." "Of course they are." I almost smiled. Running away was a family tradition, after all. I added something. She opened the album to the back, where my 3 blurry photos used to be. Now there were dozens more. Me at college graduation, my first project completion, my wedding to Ethan, Oliver's birth. "Mom had these all along," Lark said quietly. "She just never put them in. I thought maybe you should have them." Oliver ran over, curious about our visitor. "I'm 3, he announced proudly. "I know," Lark smiled, then looked at me. "I'm getting help. Real help this time. Learning to be honest about who I am, not who everyone wants me to be." I watched my son examine the dandelion stem with intense concentration, so much like his father in his quiet curiosity. Sometimes the hardest person to be honest with is yourself. "I'm not asking for forgiveness," Lark said, setting the album on the garden wall. "Just wanted you to know that you were never invisible." I was just too busy performing to really see. She turned to leave, then paused. "Your son. He has your smile. The real one, not the one we learned to fake at family functions." I waited until her car disappeared before opening the album. Between the new photos, Lark had slipped a note. "You won by choosing truth. I won by finally learning from you." Oliver tugged my hand, offering another dandelion. Together, we blew the seeds into the future, watching them dance away on the wind, each one carrying its own story, its own chance at something real.